Early one Sunday morning, we arrived at the church. A guest speaker was visiting, and the focus would be on getting filled with God's Spirit, which usually also meant joining the church. The venue was a relatively small and humid basement in a nondescript building in a rough part of town. Not what I expected for a church setting, but we were happy to overlook most things to get what we were after. In fact, there was something appealing about the experience being like a gem hidden from view. The event started with simple, old-fashioned music played with just an organ and tambourine. After the speaker delivered his message, the service became extremely emotional and everyone around me wept. I had never heard such impassioned speech before. The atmosphere was charged with more emotion than I had ever encountered in one place. As the speaker shouted into a microphone with tears and sweat running down his face, the room filled with wailing. At the end, the call came to tell God that you were ready to change your ways, and that you promised to change. His Spirit was ready to be given out to those who really wanted it. As I sat with my eyes closed and tears falling to my lap, I felt hands gently guiding my arms to raise. Things became very hazy, and I eventually found myself standing, surrounded by caring, weeping strangers. My eyes were closed the entire time, and the experience made me feel as if I was disconnected from my body. I was only a mind trapped in a sinful shell, asking forgiveness and making promises to God. I started to hear people shouting, "That's it, yes, that's it." I was told that I spoke in other languages through the power of God, although I don't have a clear memory of it. Also a hazy experience, I was led to a large trough of water, where I was asked if I would be baptized. I said yes, as did all my relatives. I changed into a robe, was guided down under the water, and then brought back up suddenly. I was a bit unsure about what I should be doing after being baptized, but I followed suit of those around me, and the experience of the service repeated for another 10 minutes or so. Then I got out of the water, changed back to my dress clothes, and the next people in line did the same. Afterward, I felt like a completely brand new person. Everyone was so kind and affectionate. They enthusiastically congratulated and welcomed me to the church. I was encouraged by several members to be sure and come back for the next gathering. I remember one person actually pressured me for my contact information, so we could keep in touch and be friends. Because of my state of mind, I gave in, when I normally wouldn't have. I learned years later that this was not as random as I thought. It was a technique taught to existing members to help retain new members. Exhausted and exhilarated, we all left after a long day. I still vividly remember how I felt when I looked at a flower or other people that day. Everything was wonderful and beautiful. I couldn't wait to live my new life. We had finally found what we were looking for. That first day, my relatives and I took a pledge to each other that we would have an everlasting allegiance to the truth, and made a pact to correct anyone who may be in danger of straying in the future. I thought to myself, God is so different than I ever realized. I wonder if there will be another time in my life where I realize God is completely different again. The answer was yes, but for now, there was a new life to live, a life so wonderful, that everyone ought to know about it. One thing I didn't realize about how I felt after the church gathering, was that I had nothing to compare that experience to. I had never done charitable work, I had never experienced emotion in a group of people, and I wasn't in a habit of getting things off my chest. If I had known the feeling of helping others in meaningful ways, I would have known the type of positive feelings that I felt. I had bottled up my emotions after childhood abuse and depression, and didn't know processing my emotions could bring the same type of relief. My extreme relief came from believing all my problems had been solved, and that my life was put on the right track. We compared it to winning the lottery, except that it was even bigger since it was forever. I was also a major creature of habit, and this was far outside my norm, so going through it left me with a sense of accomplishment. It was understandable euphoria. We were told in advance this would be proof of the church's correctness, and now we were all in. Because evil was lurking in the world, we should only study the Bible and go to church, and not read any commentary or other sources of information. Looking back, I'm surprised at how many instructions and concepts were given out in just our first Bible studies and services. We were being protected with guardrails to keep us on the straight and narrow. I had joined the church. Next, I would learn what had to be given up.